Belle is a good-for-nothing adventurer who falls for a goddess but is too weak to riz her up. However, everything changes when he unlocks a cheat skill that increases his stats every time he sees his crush, so he becomes the strongest swordsman, making everyone want him. It all started when the gods moved to the earth and turned humans into their familiars by giving them a power called blessing. Although this power allowed them to conquer monster dungeons, not everyone was lucky enough to become a familiar, and Belle was among these unlucky losers. However, a bottom-tier goddess named Hestia took pity on him and finally made him a familiar, so Belle decided to become an adventurer to save every baddie he would encounter in the dungeon, just like he promised his late grandfather. However, on his very first day, Belle is attacked by an S-ranked minotaur and almost kisses this dream goodbye until a hot girl suddenly appears and easily defeats the monster. As Belle stares at her in awe, she asks if he is okay, making him realize that he just fell in love at first sight. He quickly runs to his advisor, Anna, and asks about his savior, only to learn that she is Eyes, a member of God Loki's family. Belle believes he'll never bag a chick like Eyes, but when Anna replies that all girls love strong men who can protect them, he decides to work overtime to riz her up. Later that evening, as Belle returns to his rundown home, Hestia jumps into his arms and quickly makes sure that he isn't hurt anywhere. She then shows him the croquettes she bought from her measly savings, and as the two eat them, Hestia says she is happy that he is the only member of her family for now, because they get to enjoy these little dates together. Later that night, as she checks his stats, she is shocked to see that he activated a rare cheat skill named Realist Phrase, which will multiply his stats based on how intense his emotions are. However, she decides to keep this a secret from him, as she believes that the other gods will try to exploit him if they ever found out. Instead, she lectures Belle on how he should stay loyal to her, instead of gooning over Eyes, since she feels jealous that he leveled up because of someone else. The next morning, Belle wakes up with Hestia on top of him, and almost has a heart attack when she presses her melons against him. The virgin quickly gets up before she senses his wood, and gets ready for the dungeon. On his way, he comes across a local waitress named Sir, who hands him free food and asks that he visit her restaurant tonight if he wants the dessert too. That day in the dungeon, he goes up against a group of monsters but manages to slay them all by imagining Eyes as his future girlfriend. At night, Belle learns from Hestia that his stats have gone up by a huge margin, so he asks her how it happened. However, she just angrily sprints out as she feels jealous that he leveled up because of Eyes again, instead of her. Later, Belle visits Sir's restaurant as promised, and quickly realizes that this rich people's place is going to suck his piggy bank dry, but he starts eating anyway. Just then, an adventurer's party walks into the restaurant, and Belle is shocked to find Eyes among them. Sir reveals that this is God Loki's family, which is a regular at her restaurant, and Belle realizes that if he keeps coming here, he will get to bless his eyes with Eyes' face more often. However, Beta, an arrogant wolf boy in her family, suddenly asks Eyes to tell everyone the story of the loser rat that she saved from the Minotaur a few days ago, and Belle realizes he is talking about him. While everyone else starts laughing, Reveria, the mother of the group, reminds him that it was their fault that the Minotaur escaped from the 17th floor, but Bate argues that it isn't wrong to call trash what it is. Hearing this, Belle runs out of the restaurant with tears in his eyes, while Eyes watches him from behind. He then heads to the dungeon and turns it into a slaughterhouse, while promising himself that he will catch up to Eyes, no matter what. He later returns home to Hestia, completely beaten up, and says he wants to become stronger quickly, making her realize that he is dead serious about it. Later, when Hestia checks Belle's stats again, she is surprised at how fast he is growing and realizes that it's his feelings toward Eyes that are triggering his newfound skill. She also wonders if she should tell Belle about it, but discards the idea to keep him safe from others who might come after him if they knew about his rare skill. The next morning, Hestia tells Belle about his stats but keeps his skill a secret before asking him to never go overboard like last night again. Belle, who is totally giddy about his overnight growth, promises he will be a good boy and won't leave her alone again. This put Hestia's mind at ease, and she quickly gets up, telling Belle that she will be gone for a few days to attend the annual gods meeting. Later that day, Belle heads to Sir's restaurant and apologizes to Mamma Mia, the owner, for running away without paying. She tells him that if he hadn't come back to pay her today, she would have made human puree out of him. Just then, Sarah comes up and hands another lunchbox to Belle, before wishing him good luck for today's adventure. As she leaves while blushing, Mamma Mia realizes she has the hots for Belle and teases him about it, before telling him to go off to his mission now. Meanwhile, at the gods' meeting, as Hestia steals the banquet food because she is tired of surviving on stale bread, the goddess of beauty, Freya, comes up to her, Just as they exchange greetings, Loki runs up to them too, and Hestia uses this chance to ask whether Eyes is currently dating someone. The question pisses off Loki, who says that if anyone dared to approach her one-sided love, she would cut them into cubes, and the two start bickering. Just then, Freya mentions how nice Loki looks in a feminine dress, but Hestia says there's no point in her trying to look like a girl, as she doesn't have any melons. This prompts Loki to grab her by her cheeks and spin her around, making everyone else gather nearby to look at Hestia's jiggly jugs in full swing. After Loki gets tired and drops her, Hestia tells her never to show her ugly flatness to her again, only to find Hephaestus, the goddess of forgery, right behind her. Hestia quickly gets up and tells the redhead that she came here to meet her, but Hephaestus grows sus and tells her she won't lend her another penny, no matter how broke she is. Hestia says even though that was once the case, she is no longer just a broke goddess, but a broke goddess with a familiar. The redhead quickly asks if she means Bel, the boy with red eyes and white hair, and Hestia nods her head. Just then, Freya, who was third-wheeling all along, takes her leave, and Hestia immediately gets down on her knees, asking Hephaestus to make her a weapon for Bel. At the same time, Bel, who is looking at other people's fancy gears and expensive weapons, meets Miak, a minor god like Hestia. He asks Miak why he didn't attend the gods' meeting, to which he says it's because his family is too small. Just then, he pulls out 2 vials of medicine and gives them to Bel, insisting that he keep them and, in exchange, continue to help his familiars. Back at Hephaestus's office, Hestia keeps kneeling before her as she begs her to make her a weapon, which prompts the baddie to question why a goddess like her is going so far for her familiar. Hestia says that Bel is trying to change himself because he wants to reach his newfound goal, so if she doesn't help him now, it will be too late. She also calls herself a leech for living off of his kindness and giving him nothing in return, which makes Hephaestus smile. As this sob speech changes her heart, she agrees to make Bel a weapon and takes Hestia to her workshop, asking that she help her out as an assistant. The following day, a waitress requests that Bel deliver Cyr's purse to her, which she accidentally left behind at their restaurant. The elf waitress, Ryu, explains that she is currently at the ongoing Monsterphilia event at the pavilion, but Bel has no idea what this is. So she explains that it is a monster hunting event hosted by god Ganesha's family. In this event, multiple adventurers fight monsters captured from the dungeon and show off how tough they are. Meanwhile, Hephaestus finally completes making a fancy knife for Bel, and Hestia feels so happy that she jumps up and down. After tying the weapon around the airhead's torso and telling her to deliver it to Bel, Hephaestus reminds her of the hefty amount of money she now owes her and warns her against forgetting it. At the same time, near the pavilion, Loki asks Freya why she is suddenly interested in this event and suspects that the chick has found another innocent boy to goon over. She reveals that the boy this time isn't all that outstanding in terms of skill, but he is so pretty that she can't help but feel the need to devour him. Just then, Bel passes by them, and as soon as Freya sees him, she gets up and takes her leave. While Loki is left to wonder if she forgot her meds again, Freya sneaks into the pavilion's underground cells and releases a bunch of monsters. Meanwhile, Hestia finds Bel in the crowd and says that she wanted to see him because she missed him. Bel blushes and says he missed her too, only for Hestia to grab his hand and drag him to a crepe vendor, suggesting that they have a date today. He tries to turn her down, but she doesn't take no for an answer, and moments later, the two settle down and enjoy their crepe together. Hestia asks Bel to taste hers, but he shyly refuses and offers her a bite of his own. When she gladly chomps down on it, some whipped cream sticks to her cheek, and she asks Bel to remove it. The virgin turns red, but does it anyway, making Hestia tease him about how innocent he is. Later, as they head to another street vendor, a huge gorilla-like monster breaks out of the pavilion and runs toward Hestia. Bel grabs her hand and drags her away to a nearby town, while asking if she knows why that monster is trying to turn her into his lunch. Just then, as they stop to catch their breath, the gorilla jumps right in front of them and tries to grab Hestia. Although Bel is pissing his pants at this sight, he realizes he needs to protect this girl to keep his promise to his late grandfather, and he charges at the monster with his blade. However, the blade breaks into pieces, and Bel gets yeeted into a wall. Just then, as the gorilla approaches him, Bel throws a lamp into its face and uses this chance to grab Hestia and run away again. On his way, he realizes that he is not strong enough to protect her, so he locks her out of the town and tells her to run away while he holds the gorilla back. Hestia tries to argue against this, but Bel says he cannot lose his family again before leaving her behind. At the same time, Ganesha learns about the missing monsters and his underlings inform him that the guards were under a spell when they found them. He quickly orders them to seek help from other families to find and capture the monsters, explaining that the safety of people is more important than their pride right now. On the other hand, as Bell faces the gorilla again and somehow manages to evade its attacks, his knife completely shatters, forcing him to run for his life. Meanwhile, as Hestia trips and falls on her way out of the town, she realizes that she still hasn't given the new knife to Bell. She recalls Hephaestus explaining that the knife is alive, thanks to the magical enchantment engraved on it, and will activate once Bell touches it. Just as she decides to return to the battlefield, Bell gets beaten to a pulp by the monster too, and almost gives up, until he is reminded of the Minotaur from before. As he somehow gets back up, he wishes that he could see Eyes once again, despite knowing that she won't show up to save him this time. Meanwhile, as Aina and her buddies gossip about the escaped monsters, Eyes and Loki overhear them and learn that Ganesha has asked everyone to help capture them. Eyes quickly gets down to hunting them, while Aina finally understands why Bell is such a simp for her. At the same time, just as Bell mentally bids farewell to Hestia, she shows up at the battleground and makes him question if she has totally lost her mind. The gorilla spots her too and quickly charges at her, only for Bell to shield her as the two stumble into the deeper parts of the town. Upon recovering from their fall, Bell asks Hestia why she is here, to which she says she couldn't leave him alone. She further states that just like he wants to protect her, she wants to protect him too, making him cry at how both of them will become minced meat now. She holds his hand and tells him not to give up too quickly, but her motivational speech gets halted when the gorilla finds them again. Bell quickly grabs her in his arms and starts running, only for the crackhead to feel tingly at how she is being carried by her beloved. Just then, Bell finds a secret door in a wall and hides behind it, finally catching a break from the psycho monkey. He turns to Hestia and says the monster is after her, to which she says that instead of running away, Bell should beat it. He quickly reminds her how much of a weakling he is, but she insists that with his current stats, he can totally beat it. Bell takes out his broken sword and explains that he can't even scratch the monster, let alone defeat it, making Hestia question when he turned into such a crybaby loser. Just as he stares at her in shock, she hands him the new knife and promises to help him win this fight, which moves Bell to tears. Back in the city, Eyes learns from the guards that even though she has defeated all the smaller monsters, their big boss, the silver gorilla, is still missing. Somebody says that it was seen chasing a little boy down the nearby town, but it hasn't been found yet because the town is a maze. Just as Eyes quickly leaves to find this monster, the said gorilla starts sniffing to locate Hestia and eventually pinpoints her location. At the same time, as Hestia updates Bell's stats and activates the knife with her blood, she recalls Hephaestus explaining that since this blade is alive, it will keep getting more and more powerful as her wielder does. As she mentally thanks the other goddess, she finds that Bell's stats have multiplied once again, but before she can celebrate, the gorilla climbs over the wall and growls at them. Hestia notices that Bell is pissing his pants again, so she hugs him from behind and asks him to trust her when she says he can defeat the monster. The glazing works, so Bell quickly sprints out and dodges the gorilla's attack, only for it to smack the boy with its chains. Bell uses the knife to block this attack and is surprised at how easily it does. Just then, Hestia starts her cheerleading and tells him that the knife is only as strong as its wielder, which means Bell is insanely strong right now. Just as she asks him to trust his strength, he jumps at the gorilla and breaks its helmet, setting the psycho free. As the monster charges at him again, Bell dodges and uses the clothesline to turn into a slingshot and attack it, throwing it off guard. Just as it tries to regain its balance while swinging its fist, Bell stabs the gorilla where its magic core is and finally puts it out of business. As the monster turns into smoke and leaves an expensive crystal behind, all the people in town come out of their houses and cheer on Bell. Just then, Hestia jumps into his arms and thanks him for saving her too, while Eyes watches this scene from afar and proudly smiles at Bell. On the other hand, as Hestia continues to glaze him, she suddenly faints, but since Bell doesn't understand why, he starts crying. That night, as he waits for her to wake up by the door, Seer comes up to him and apologizes for bringing this upon him by forgetting her purse. He tells her it's not her fault and that she has done more than enough to help him by lending them a room. However, Seer smiles and whispers that he rizzed her up by how he unalived that monster. After she runs away while blushing, Bell wonders if she was just making fun of him, but just then, Hestia wakes up and distracts his mind. He quickly reaches her side and tells her she worried him by fainting all of a sudden, before revealing that all the other monsters were eliminated by Eyes too. Just as she pouts in jealousy, Belle pulls out the knife and asks where she got a weapon forged by Hephaestus of all people. To which she grins and reveals that she got it made by her personally because she knew he was window shopping at her outlets. Just as she explains that it's because she wants to help him get stronger, Belle starts crying his heart out and hugs her. At the same time, in the dungeon, a professional bully named Ged is hitting his supporter named Lily by telling her he will feed her to the monsters if she doesn't obey him. A few days later, as Belle tries to get permission from Ina to visit the 7th floor of the dungeon, she tells him he can't, as he recently got smoked at the 5th floor by the Minotaur. He argues that he has gotten stronger since then, and even boasts that he has E-ranked stats now, but she doesn't believe him until she sees it for herself. She finds it strange how quickly he is leveling up, and even stranger that he is doing all of that with close to no armor, so she asks him to meet with her next weekend. When the weekend arrives, Ina meets Belle in her casual clothes, which makes the boy blush as she looks hotter than ever. She notices this too and wonders if he has something to say, only for Belle to stutter that she looks young. This pisses her off, so she grabs him in a headlock as a punishment, but Belle enjoys her marshmallows instead. She later takes him to the local shopping mall, where he finds a bunch of fancy Hephaestus shops. However, since the weapons are even more expensive than all of his organs combined, Belle asks Ina why she even brought him here. Just then, Hestia steps out of one of the shops, and Belle learns that she is working as a part-timer here too. The goddess, on the other hand, tells Ina not to hit on her precious boy, to which she says that she isn't interested in pipsqueaks, so she can rest assured. Later, she takes Belle to the top floor of the mall and reveals that even though Hephaestus is such a posh brand, they sell the weapons created by their junior craftsmen for cheaper rates here. Belle is stunned to know this and quickly starts exploring the place, until he finds an armor that catches his attention. He learns that this one in particular was made by a craftsman named Welf Krazo and becomes fascinated with the name. Just then, Ina finds him and suggests that if he is resuming his dungeon hunts from tomorrow, he should either form a party or hire a supporter to make his runs more efficient. Later that evening, as they bid farewell to each other, Ina gives him a forearm armor and asks him to put it to good use. When he refuses to accept something so expensive, she asks him to accept it for her sake, because she doesn't want him to die in the dungeon like many others do. This rizzes him up, so he shyly accepts it, and Ina leaves after poking him on the nose. On his way back, Belle comes across Lily, the little girl from before, and saves her from Ged, who is attacking her with his sword. After his sword gets blocked by Belle's knife, he tells him to mind his own business, only for Ryu to show up and tell Ged to put his weapon away. He doesn't like being ordered around by a girl, so he tells her to shut up, only for Ryu to aura farm and make him flee like a rat. Just as Belle thanks her for the help, the elf girl tells him to take care of himself for Sir's sake, which makes him blush. They then realize that Lily has run away. However, she overhears the entire conversation from behind a wall. The following day, she approaches Belle just before he heads into the dungeon and offers to become his supporter for the day. When he asks if she is the girl from yesterday, she shows him her cat ears and says she has never seen him before. As Belle touches her ears to refresh his memory, she makes happy noises and tells him to take responsibility now that he has touched her sensitive spot. Belle blushes deep red, but then agrees to take her along as his supporter for the day. As they head into the dungeon later, Belle easily slaughters a bunch of medium-level monsters, so Lily glazes him, but suspects that it's because of his knife too. Belle agrees with her, being the doormat that he is, and reveals that he got it from his goddess as a gift. She then tells him to remove the gem from their last monster too, and hands him another knife to do so, while Belle asks about her god and learns that she belongs to the Soma family. Later, Belle heads to the guild and asks Ina about the said family, only to learn that this family sells alcohol and has members who are desperate for money for some reason. Upon being questioned about Lily, Belle says that he likes her and shows off the hefty sum of money he made thanks to her. Just then, as he turns around to leave, Ina notices that his knife is missing from its scabbard, which sucks the very life out of him. Meanwhile, Lily, who stole Belle's knife, takes it to a pawn shop, but gets frustrated when the buyer calls it a useless piece of trash and only offers her pennies in exchange. As she stomps out of the shop, wondering how Belle could cut so many monsters with this dagger, Ryu and Sir pass her by, and the elf girl notices the sword. She stops and tells Lily to show it to her, but when she refuses, Ryu attacks her with a coin, which makes her drop the sword and run for her life. She crashes into Belle, who is still looking for his knife right outside the alley, just as Ryu follows her out too. Belle quickly asks the girls if they have seen a black knife, and almost transcends to the heavens when Ryu hands it to him. The girls refrain from ratting out on Lily, and leave her with a quiet warning. On the other hand, as soon as they leave, Bell asks Lily to formally become his supporter during tomorrow's dungeon hunt. The next day, Lily thanks Bell for hiring her and notices that he isn't wearing the knife behind his back anymore. When she asks him about it, Bell says he doesn't want to misplace it anymore, so he has attached it to his forearm cover instead. After the hunt is over, both of them are stunned to learn that they earned 26,000 gold coins combined, and Lily is even more surprised when Bell hands half of it to her without a word. She questions if he wants more for himself since he did most of the work, but Bell says she helped him just as much and wishes that they could keep this up. At the same time, Ina notices another Soma family member arguing over the hunt money and wonders what makes them so money-hungry. Meanwhile, the villain baddie watches Belle through her magic mirror and picks out a book from her collection, hoping that it will finally bring out the boy's hidden potential. A few nights later, Hestia drinks with Mayak and rants about how chicks keep trying to steal her boy toy away from her. Mayak reminds her that Belle isn't her property, but she says that she loves him and drinks until she starts hallucinating. The next morning, she wakes up hungover and calls Belle a dirty little cheater when he tries to help her. However, when he asks her out on a date, saying that he wants to splurge the money he recently made on her, the hangover takes care of itself, and she tells him to meet her in the evening. To prepare herself for Belle, she heads to the Divine Hot Springs, where Demeter, another bombshell goddess, meets her and notices how effortlessly her melons are floating. Hestia boasts that she is preparing herself for her date today, and Demeter can't help but announce it to the rest of the girls, all of whom are surprised that an ugly shrimp like her has a man now. The girl reveals that it's a boy from her family, making Demeter question what she likes about him, to which Hestia says she likes everything. Later that evening, while Belle gets more and more uncomfortable surrounded by lovebirds, Hestia arrives, making him blush at how hot she looks. However, before she holds his hand, all the other girls from the hot springs push her away and surround Belle, fangirling over how cute he is. As Demeter arrives and apologizes for not being able to stop them, an exhausted Belle falls onto her plots, face first, forcing a jealous Hestia to grab him and run away. After running around the entire day, they finally manage to escape the other chicks at midnight, and Hestia cries over how their date got ruined. However, Belle tells her it's all right as he still had fun, and shows her the beautiful view of the dungeon. Just as she begins enjoying it, Belle suggests that they reschedule their date for some other time, making Hestia smile and lean against his shoulder, which makes him blush. At the same time, Lily gets bullied by some adventurers from her family who steal all her money and beat her up. After they leave, she lies on the ground and curses her fate, saying that she hates all adventurers and cannot wait to get away from this town. Just then, she is reminded of Belle and how stupid he is, and she cannot help but feel annoyed at him. The next day in the dungeon, as Belle fights some mid-tier monsters again, he gets knocked down by one of them, but Lily saves him by using fire magic. He quickly gets up and manages to defeat the rest of them before turning to Lily and thanking her for saving his life. Just as she says it's no big deal, Belle asks if she can use fire magic, but Lily reveals that she just used a magic-infused blade, which makes him worried that she used such an expensive item to save a worthless guy like him. Later, when Belle shares his food with her and even lets her take a day off on short notice, Lily feels her hatred towards adventurers getting complicated again. On his way back from the dungeon, Belle stops by the restaurant to return the lunchbox to Seer and asks about what she does in her free time. She states that she likes reading, but after Belle says that he isn't really a nerd, she shows him the magic book that one of their guests left behind and suggests that he try reading it for a change. As soon as Belle returns home with the book, he quickly settles down and starts reading, only to learn that magic can either be inherent or acquired. Since the latter applies to him better, he learns that such magic can be awakened after a person develops strong feelings of reverence or want toward magic. Just then, the book asks him to imagine what kind of magic he wants, so he pictures a giant ball of fire that will help him become a hero and finally score with eyes. However, just as something within him changes, Belle falls asleep and only awakens when Hestia returns from her part-time job. She quickly tells him to lie down so she can check his stats, but almost loses her mind when she finds fire magic within his new skills. On the other hand, Belle is so excited that he almost snaps her spine, and later feels giddy like a little girl when he checks it out himself. Just then, Hestia explains to him that magic skills usually come with incantations, but since his skill didn't come with them, it means that he doesn't need them. She says it is quite rare among magic users and asks him to test it out in the dungeons tomorrow. However, since Belle is in his rebellious phase, he sneaks into the dungeon the same night. Once there, he finds a low-budget monster and treats it as a guinea pig for his fireball magic, which works wonders. It excites the ex-loser so much that he goes completely berserk and turns the dungeon into a barbecue grill. However, it exhausts his magic power, so he passes out in the middle of the dungeon. Just then, Reveria and Eyes are returning from their floor boss hunt when they find him lying in the middle of nowhere, and Eyes recognizes him as the boy that she saved from the Minotaur. She tells Reveria that she wants to make it up to him for almost getting him unalived, so the elf girl leaves her behind and returns from the dungeon on her own. Sometime later, Bell finally comes to and finds a pair of milkers in his point of view, which makes him wonder if he's in his mother's lap. Just as Eyes says she isn't his mother, he realizes he is touching the thighs of his self-proclaimed goddess, and turns into a bowling ball to escape the scene. He returns home like a scaredy cat, making Hestia wonder if it's the after effects of reading. However, when she picks up the book he borrowed, she realizes it is a grimoire, and explains to Belle that these books disappear once they've been read. Belle reveals that since he borrowed it from the restaurant, he will have to compensate them for it, only for Hestia to reveal that he couldn't pay for it even if he sold his soul to Satan. The poor guy heads to the pub later and apologizes to Mamma Mia for ruining something so precious, but this baddie just throws the book into the bin and says it's the fault of whoever left it behind. Meanwhile, Ina overhears Loki begging Reveria to buy her the Soma family's beer, and offers to buy it for her in exchange for some info on them. Loki reveals that the followers of that family don't worship their god but instead bow before the beer. At the same time, as Bell reaches his meeting spot with Lily, he finds that someone is picking on her. However, when he tries to help her, Ged gets in the way and suggests that the two of them partner up to steal all the gold Lily has been hiding. Bell immediately pushes this greed reincarnate away and refuses to do so, only to find Lily standing right behind him. However, when she asks him what he talked to Ged about, Bell lies that it was nothing, which makes her feel sus. On her way to the dungeon, Lily recalls her tragic backstory and how she was orphaned overnight after her parents died during one of their hunts. After this, she was forced to become a supporter for bullies hiding under the guise of adventurers, and was repeatedly abused and denied payment for her services. Even after she tried to escape, the bullies just extended the abuse to her saviors until they refused to recognize her too. Meanwhile, Loki takes Ina to her house and elaborates on the beer story, explaining that the beer the Soma family sells in the market isn't the real deal. Instead, they keep the real beer inside their main house and offer it to whoever brings in the most money. Since it is highly addictive, the familiars keep extorting money from the weak, just so they can take a sip of it. Ina finds it weird, but thanks Loki for the info, just before the latter leaves with Eyes to check her stats. That night, Belle tells Hestia about Lily too, and asks if she will help her escape the bullies that are hurting her. However, Hestia deduces that Lily is the suspicious one, who is not only using him to escape her bullies, but also stole his knife. She tells him to keep an eye on her instead, but Belle says that even if Lily is not what she seems, he still wants to help her because she reminds him of himself before he met her, and also because he is dumb. The next day, Lily suggests to Belle that they head to the 10th floor of the dungeon, but he shows hesitation and reminds her how she had to save him on the 7th floor. In response, she glazes him and claims that she has been to the 11th floor, so she knows that he can easily clear the 10th one now. As soon as they head in, she turns on her bootlicker mode and repeatedly thanks Belle for hiring her. Just as he lets his guard down, she hands him a new dagger and tells him to use this on the 10th floor instead of his usual knife, as it is longer and better for bigger monsters. To fit it onto his arm, Belle is forced to remove his original dagger and place it in his thigh pouch, just as this cunning fox predicted. At the same time, Ina stumbles upon Eyes near the dungeon and thanks her for saving Belle from the Minotaur some weeks ago. As soon as Eyes realizes who she is talking about, she asks if he is afraid of her, but Ina instantly denies it and says that he actually wants to marry her. Just then, Ged's gang passes by them, and the girls overhear their scheme to unalive Belle to gain control of Lily and her hidden money. Back in the dungeon, Belle finally arrives at the 10th floor, but just as he is admiring the scenic landforms, a fat orc appears in front of him. His gut instinct says that he cannot defeat it yet, but Lily feeds his delusions and tells him he can do it. After hearing this, Belle charges at the monster and manages to immobilize it by slashing through its legs, before finally unaliving it by stabbing its core. Just then, Lily announces that another orc is coming, so Belle uses Firebolt to get rid of this one, before excitedly turning around to tell her that he defeated them both. However, instead of finding her, he finds some special objects on the ground that are used to lure monsters. Just as a bunch of orcs come his way, Belle anxiously calls out to Lily, worried that she might have been attacked, but he gets swatted away himself. Just then, This queen of audacity fires her arrows at Bel and steals the pouch in which he placed his Hephaestus knife, finally revealing that she has been a traitor all along. As Bel continues to call out her name, questioning what in the world is suddenly wrong with her, she escapes to the 9th floor and reminds herself that she needs to sell his knife in order to leave the Soma family. However, Karma follows Lily in the form of Ged, who finds her on her way out and turns her into his punching bag. He laughs and reveals that he knew she would eventually betray Bel too, given her trust issues, and explains how he and his buddies had her surrounded from the start. He quickly tears away her cloak, which is full of stolen weapons, including her magic blade, and starts grinning as soon as she cries. Just then, his minions return from their independent search missions, and he shows off the weapons to them, only for the underlings to ask him to drop the loot. He initially doesn't understand what's happening, but when one of them throws a sack of dying ant monsters at him, Ged realizes he has been stabbed in the back. The lackey reveals that dying ants release signals that bring the other ants to them, and suggests that he run while he still can, instead of acting like a macho man and starting a 3-on-1. Ged throws away his god complex and runs for his life, only to get attacked on his way by an ant anyway. With only Lily left behind, the adventurer threatens her with an ant and demands that she hand him the keys to all her treasures. She quickly shows him the key, which he snatches from her neck, before showing her all the ants surrounding her. Lily argues that he promised to spare her life in exchange for the key, but he reminds her she's dealing with a jerk here, who she should have never trusted. Just then, he throws her into the monsters and runs away, all while she is left to wonder what she did to deserve such a trashy life. Just then, she is reminded of what she did to Bel and wonders if this is instant karma. However, right before she turns into the ants' dinner, Bel's firebolt spell fries them all. Just as she wonders if it's an illusion, Bel shields her and destroys whoever tries to hurt her, until all of the monsters turn into ashes. He then turns to her and asks if she is okay, only for the ungrateful brat to yell at him and question why in the world he is saving her after what she did to him. Her mental breakdown doesn't stop there, and she confesses that she not only stole his knife but also stole the gems they collected. On top of this, she divided their money in a 60-40 ratio instead of 50-50, and even ripped him off when he asked her to buy something. Bel calmly listens to her and says that he would still save her despite all this because she is a girl, to which she calls him a cultured womanizer. He smiles and rephrases that he saved her because she is her, which moves her to tears, so she hugs him and cries her heart out. Elsewhere, Freya is happy that Bel is continuing to grow exponentially, but she worries that his hesitation might be a hindrance. To fix this, she asks her minion, Otterl, to head to the dungeon and create a worthy opponent for her boy toy. A few days later, Bel walks with Lily and keeps touching her cat ears on the way. This makes her feel hot, so she tells him not to do it and questions if he is really okay with becoming friends with her after what she did to him. Bel says it's totally fine, and they both head to Hestia's mansion. Once there, Bel takes his leave to prepare some tea, but mentions that they only have 2 cups. Hestia's eyes sparkle, and she says she will just use his mouth as her teacup, but Bel shrugs it off as a joke. Once he leaves the room, Hestia asks Lily about how serious she is about this, only for her to state that she won't ever betray Bel again, because she owes her life to him. Hestia believes her promise but reveals that she still hates Lily, no matter what she says, because she put Bel's life at stake just for some extra money. As Lily's frown deepens, Hestia asks her to take care of him anyway, explaining that since he has already proven he's the dumbest loser in the world, he needs someone to look out for him so he doesn't get scammed again. Just as Bel returns, Hestia warns Lily against trying to hit on her man and grabs his arm to assert dominance. However, it only motivates Lily more, so she shamelessly takes off her cloak and jumps on him as well. As the 2 chicks engage in a mental war over who deserves Bel more, the boy quietly takes his leave to see Aina at the guild. Once there, he finds her sitting with his actual goddess, Eyes, and starts malfunctioning. But just before he runs away this time, Eyes jumps right in front of him, and her cake manages to stop him. With no way to escape, Bel turns into a blushing mess and questions Aina why she is here, to which she reveals that Eyes wants to talk to him. While Bel assumes she is going to propose to him for marriage, Eyes hands him the forearm protector he lost in the dungeon, and reveals that she is the one who saved him from the orcs on the 10th floor. She also apologizes to him for letting the Minotaur and her group mates insult him, but Bel gets flustered and says he is the one who should be apologizing for being such a damsel in distress all the time. Later, on their way out of the guild, Eyes praises Bel for making it to the 10th floor so quickly, but this king of low self-esteem yaps about how much of a weakling he really is. She then asks if he has someone to teach him martial arts, but when he says no, she offers to become his unpaid mentor for a week. The next day, as they meet up on a Gothic bridge for training, Eyes asks Bell if he uses any kicks and fists in his fights, besides his knife, which he denies. Just then, she takes his knife in her hand and starts doing some kind of weird dance, making Bell wonder if she really is just a dumb blonde. However, she suddenly kicks him out of nowhere and sends him flying, which makes him realize that he is underestimating her. Once he gets back up, Eyes takes out the sheath of her sword and suggests that they spar. When Bell pulls out his knife in response, she notices the grimace on his face and says that deep in his heart, he is afraid of something, which is going to hinder his performance. Bell realizes it's the Minotaur from that day, but he shrugs it off and attacks Eyes instead, only for her to block every single one of his attacks and bring him down to his knees. She then reveals that he has no special moves or tricks up his sleeve and asks if he would like to continue fighting. Bell gets ready, and this time, he tries to sneak attack on her, only for Eyes to smack his head and make him pass out. At the same time, Otterl challenges a bloodthirsty Minotaur in the dungeon, who furiously attacks him, only for him to break its weapon with his bare hands. He then hands it one of his own blades and orders it to fight him. However, even after the monster uses all of its anger and strength to defeat Otterl, the Macho Man stays unscathed. This pisses off the Minotaur, so he smacks him against the wall and tries to aura farm with his screams, only for Otterl to break his horn with his bare hands and tells him to stand up and fight him like a man. Eventually, after days of fighting, the Minotaur levels up and manages to break Otterl's sword, after which he believes that the monster is ready for action. Meanwhile, Bell enters the 10th floor of the dungeon with Lily, who inquires about his injuries and wonders why he looks so worn out lately. He doesn't expose his secret training sessions with Eyes and simply shrugs it off, until a bunch of malnourished monsters surround him and he is forced to drop the dumb guy act. While Lily supports him from afar with her archery skills, Bell cuts through the monsters with his knife and even uses his newly learned martial arts on some of them. As soon as the little guys get overpowered, they call upon their big daddies, the orcs, and Lily asks Bell if they should fall back now. However, he refuses to back down as he desperately wants to catch up to Eyes and fearlessly charges at them. The next day, Bell continues to get his face tattooed with Eyes' kicks during their multiple training sessions, and every time he faints, he wakes up with his head on her lap, which almost gives him a heart attack. Eventually, Eyes gets tired of how stubborn he is, so she asks Bell his reasons for trying so hard, only to learn that he is desperately trying to catch up to someone and believes that his life would be meaningless if he cannot. Eyes says she understands this feeling and tells him to practice napping now, since he will be required to do it all the time in the dungeon. Just as he is wondering what she means by it, Eyes lies down next to him and immediately falls asleep, leaving Bell alone with his intrusive thoughts and an inner cultured voice that belongs to his grandfather. The latter tells him to kiss Eyes right now because this is the only chance he will ever get, while his inner moral police tells him to keep up his good guy act. As he stares at Eyes' lips and fights these thoughts, the cultured one almost wins, until the girl whispers something in her sleep and scares him away. Later that evening, she takes him to the local market to treat him to some street food, only for Bell to find Hestia selling at one of the stands. The girl quickly latches on to Bell and tearfully questions why in the world he is hanging out with her mortal enemy, only to later learn that she is training him until her next expedition, which is in 2 days. Hestia somehow allows this but warns Eyes against using her charms to hypnotize her man. However, the airhead doesn't understand what she means. A few days later, Bell learns that Eyes has reached level 6 all on her own and even defeated a level 37 boss in the dungeon, which triggers his inferiority complex as he realizes he can never reach her. Just as he is returning home with a big frown on his face, Sir comes running to him and hugs him, confessing that she missed him, and Bell blushes, relieved that at least his chicks still want him. However, she tricks him into doing a mountain of dishes instead, and Bell's feeling of being worthless deepens. Just then, Ryu volunteers to help him out and, upon being questioned, reveals that she used to be an adventurer too. Bell takes this chance to ask how one can level up in the dungeon, to which Ryu explains that most people do it after defeating a strong monster, while others do it because they have special abilities and power moves. However, the wisest way to do it is by forming a party, because that way, other people can cover up your mistakes and help you get better. As these two continue to talk, Seer eavesdrops from the outside and feels jealous that their plot seems to be developing nicely. The next day, as Bell spars with Eyes again, she dodges his attack and attempts to punch him in the guts. However, he evades it and pulls back. She mentions how this is the first time that he has countered her attacks in this way, and wishes him luck for his future endeavors. As she leaves and their final day of training comes to an end, Bel reminds himself that even if he cannot reach her instantly, he has to keep trying. Later, when he returns home to Hestia, she feels relieved that her love rival is finally out of the way. However, her bigger concern turns out to be Bel's insanely high stats. She tries to tell him about them, but since he is in a hurry, Bel leaves the house for the dungeon, while Hestia wonders what in the world is Realis' phrase. Meanwhile, the Loki family gets ready for their expedition with a sob speech from their leader, who tells them they will be the first ones to reach the 59th floor of the dungeon once they return from this hunt. At the same time, as Bel makes it to the dungeon, he has an eerie feeling about how empty the floor feels, which reminds him of the day he got attacked by the Minotaur. Lily feels like someone is watching them too, but Bel feels too scared to suspect another Minotaur attack until the monster that Otterl trained decides to make its debut. While Lily pisses her pants and suggests that they flee, she notices that Bel is paralyzed from fear, something she has never seen before. As the Minotaur furiously closes in on them, Lily barely saves Bel and ends up getting hurt in response, which finally wakes him up. He quickly uses consecutive firebolt attacks on the monster, but realizes that his skin is made of iron. On the other hand, the Minotaur uses the smoke screen from Bel's magic to land a surprise strike on him, which sends him flying. At the same time, Reveria and Beat come across some beaten-up adventurers in the dungeon, who reveal that they were attacked by a Minotaur. Their leader asks if someone else got up against the monster, and as soon as they mention a white-haired boy, Eyes instantly rushes out of the chamber to look for Bel. Meanwhile, as the Minotaur continues to pack its punches, all Bel manages to do is dodge his attacks, which makes him realize that even though he has deluded himself into believing he is stronger now, nothing has really changed. Just then, Lily wakes up and finds him in the middle of the fight, only for Bel to yell at her to run away at once. After some hesitation, she eventually does, while he realizes that he cannot run away as the monster would come after them and potentially unalive Lily. That's when he pulls out his sword and goes toe-to-toe with the beast, until he gets caught in one of its attacks and ends up on the ground like dead meat. Just as he struggles to get back up and wonders if this is the end, Eyes appears in front of him as she did back then, and asks if he is okay. However, instead of feeling grateful, Bel feels like a good-for-nothing loser who always needs to be saved, and tells Eyes that he cannot let a girl save him once again. Just as Beat reaches the battleground too, Bel asks Eyes to stand back as he picks up his sword and walks toward the Minotaur, all while the monster stays put like a good boy. As soon as Bel charges at the beast again, Beta finally recognizes him as the scaredy cat from before and laughs his heart out, saying that it makes sense that he doesn't want to embarrass himself in front of Eyes again. One of the other family members turns to the girl and wonders if it's really okay for a level 1 adventurer to fight an S-ranked monster, but Eyes believes that Bel will win. Just then, Beat notices how easily Bel is evading all of the Minotaur's attacks, and the other members of the family compare him to Argonaut, a hero from their childhood storybooks. Meanwhile, seeing Bel fight so well makes Freya climax too, and she says that she has never seen anything better. Back on the battlefield, as he blocks the monster's attacks with his twin swords, one of them gets broken. However, Bel uses this chance to jump midair and kick his opponent down. As soon as that happens, he uses his magic sword to stab the Minotaur's forearm and break its wrist. When the monster gets back up again, Bel picks up Otterl's sword and slices through its belly before drawing back. As everyone else watches the bull charge at him and expects it to be his last day on Earth, Bel sprints toward the bull as well and breaks its other horn with the same sword. He then switches to his magic blade and stabs the bull where he sliced him in the belly just moments ago, before using Firebolt to fry him from the inside out. As everyone else watches him burn the beast again and again, they cannot believe that a shrimp like him actually won, until Bel finally blasts it into ashes. As he becomes the last one standing, Beat asks Reveria to sneak a peek at his stats, now that his shirt has burned down, and is shocked to learn that they are all S-ranked. Later, as Bel rests in a hospital bed, Hestia sits beside him and kisses his forehead, recalling their first meeting and feeling proud of the person that he has become. A few days later, Bel heads to the guild and tells Aina that he has become a level 2 adventurer now, and she is baffled to learn that he did it in under 2 months. Later that night, as Hestia checks his stats as usual, he lies with the Minotaur's horn in his hands and feels like defeating that monster was nothing but a fever dream. Just then, Hestia presses her melons against his back and reveals that he has activated a skill called Argonaut. While Bel cannot help but celebrate this, she teases him about how innocent he is to be named after a hero from his childhood book, which makes him blush a deep red. Later, while he sulks on the couch over his useless skill, Hestia gets ready for her monthly divine meeting and reveals that she will find out Bel's new title today, now that he has leveled up. Later, on her way to the meeting room, Hestia comes across a fellow god named Taka, who reveals that all the gods are gossiping about how her familiar leveled up in less than 2 months, when it took even Eyes, the sword princess, over a year. Hestia gives him a smug smile before asking about Yamato, his own familiar who leveled up, and the two start gushing over their respective subjects. Meanwhile, as Bel is mopping the floor and daydreaming about which cool, Power Rangers-inspired title he will get, he catches sight of his discarded armor and regrets that he has to throw it away. Just then, Hestia returns and tells him that his title is Little Rookie, which sounds underwhelming to him after all his daydreaming. Later that night, as he is sulking over his name at the restaurant with Lily, Ryu and Sir join them for a celebration and congratulate Bel on leveling up. This catches the attention of all the other adventurers around them, who cannot believe that anyone could level up in such a short time. Just then, Ryu asks Bel if he is planning on going deeper into the dungeon and advises that he shouldn't go beyond the 13th floor for now. She explains that it's because from that floor onwards, the atmosphere changes and the rate of spawning monsters increases so significantly that no one can take them on their own, despite how powerful they are. Just as she mentions that he should think about forming a party, an ugly loser stands up and offers to let Bel join his party, in exchange for the elf baddie and Lily. This infuriates Bel, but before he gets to teach him a lesson, Ryu tells the adventurer to back off. When the idiot takes her threat like a joke, she uses a beer glass to break his wrist, and pulls out a knife to aura-farm some more. This hurts his fragile ego, so he tries to attack her, only for Mamma Mia to punch her counter and tell the losers to leave her restaurant if they want to fight. The next day, Bel visits the armor shop but struggles to find the Welf Krazo armor that he likes so much. When he heads to the counter to ask about it, he finds a weird guy standing right beside him, who is revealed to be the said craftsman himself. While Bel cannot believe his luck, Welf happily shows him the brand new armor that he created, and later asks him to make an exclusive contract with him. Bel questions what that means, so he explains that he will prepare all of his weapons and armor in exchange for becoming a part of his adventurer party. Hours later, the redhead accompanies him and Lily to the 11th floor of the dungeon, and thanks Bel for letting him join his gang. Lily, on the other hand, acts like a jealous Karen and sulks over the fact that Bel didn't ask for her approval. Welf, on the other hand, finds her amusing and wonders what he should do to make Miss Shrimp accept him, which only annoys her more. Just then, Bel mentions that he really likes the armor he makes, and Lily is shocked to find that Welf belongs to the Krazo family. She yaps about how this family once belonged to the most powerful craftsman in the world, who could make magic swords, until one day, they got cursed and lost their skill. Welf argues that it happened ages ago, so he shouldn't be defined by his family trauma. However, their discussion gets interrupted when monsters start breaking through the ground. Welf smirks and says he will handle the orcs, while Bel deals with the little malnourished monsters, whom he slices through pretty easily. The redhead watches him fight as well and is shocked to see how swift his movements are. Just then, an armadillo-coated monster appears behind Welf, and Bel uses his firebolt magic to smoke it, only to realize that not just his physical strength, but his magic has gotten stronger too. Later, as Lily picks up the fallen gems, Welf notices that a weird kind of glitter is glowing around Bel's hand, but before they can deduce what this is, another party near them gets attacked by a giant dragon. While those guys manage to escape, the dragon comes after Lily, who realizes she is as good as dead. Just then, Bel uses Firebolt at the monster and instantly turns its top half into overcooked meat, which makes everyone's jaws drop. When he later returns home, Hestia explains that it was the Argonaut skill that manifests whenever the wielder needs to get out of a difficult situation with minimum effort. Bel cannot believe how much his luck is shining lately, and Hestia adds to his surprise by revealing that Welf is the only member of the Krazo lineage who can forge magic weapons. As Bel stares at her in surprise, Hestia reveals that despite that, Welf refuses to use his skill to make any weapon with magic, because of which he has been kicked out of his family. The next day, Welf takes Bel to his workshop and notices how he is only interested in third-rate swords, which makes him wonder why he isn't asking him to make a magic weapon for him yet. Bel apologizes for Hestia's nosiness and says he is happy with the armor he gave him, to which Welf reveals that he was only testing to see if Bel would become greedy after learning about his ability too. He then offers to make a personalized weapon for Bel using the Minotaur horn he's been carrying around, and after hours of hard work, comes up with a handheld dagger. Bel is stunned to see how beautiful it is and thanks Welf. In exchange, the redhead asks that he trust him despite his shady background. A few days later, Bell shows off his new leather cloak to Hestia as he heads off to his first 13th floor mission, while she prays for his safe return. Later, when she heads to her job at the mall, she comes across Taka, who is seeing off his familiars on their first 13th floor mission too. Although he is surprised to learn that Bell is going for it so early, he reassures Hestia that all she can do now is wait for him to return. Meanwhile, in the dungeon, just as Bell and Welf defeat a hellhound together, another one comes charging at them, only for Lily to shoot it down with her arrows. This fuels the redhead's god complex, but just as he says that they will easily clear this floor too, Lily comes across a bunch of red-eyed rabbits with white fur and cannot help but tease Bell about how much they resemble him. Just then, the innocent-looking monsters pull out their axes and jump on them too. Meanwhile, Asphi, a seasoned baddie, tells her god, Hermes, that most of the people in town do not believe that Bell defeated the Minotaur himself, and that some even suspect that he cheated and took help from the Loki family. Hermes says that the gods aren't stupid enough to level up somebody based on that, so they must see for themselves whether Bell will surpass Eyes or not. Asphi questions why he is suddenly so interested in a no-name, to which he wonders if she is jealous. However, when she outright denies it, he pats her head and reassures her she's still his favorite. Back in the dungeon, Taka's team gets dog-walked by a group of hellhounds as they try to make their escape, in hopes of saving their injured team member. At the same time, Bell's team faces the herd of rabbit monsters that keeps on increasing, no matter how many they unalive. That's when the other team leader, Akka, notices them and tells Yamato that he will run into Bell's team, so that the hellhounds attack them instead. Yamato reminds him that it would be a trash-tier move, but Oka argues that saving their teammate is their first priority. Just as their team runs past Bell, Lily realizes what they have done and announces that they will have to flee the scene. Otherwise the hellhounds will cook and eat them. They quickly run for the closest corridor, with the rabbits and hellhounds following right after, and Bell realizes they cannot outrun them. He stops midway and blasts them away with his firebolt, while telling his teammates to run for their lives. However, the hellhounds survive and charge at them again. Bell manages to slay 2 of them, but 2 others jump past him and attack his team. Welf manages to defeat one of them while sustaining an injury on his arm, and Bell somehow saves Lily from turning into wolf dinner. However, just as they believe that they have been saved, monsters start howling from all sides, and Lily recalls what Ryu told them about these sadistic dungeons. As monsters charge at them from all sides, including the ceiling, Bell realizes that the cave is just punishing them more since they are already worn out. Just then, the ceiling collapses on top of them, breaking Welf's leg, while a bloodthirsty hellhound stares at Bell and blows his fire breath at him. Days pass, and when Bell's team doesn't return, Hestia rushes to the guild and asks Aina to launch a search party to look for him. Just then, Taka comes up with his 2 cowards and explains how these losers are responsible for what happened with Bell. Hestia gathers with Hephaestus and Miak at her church and tells Taka's familiars that if Bell doesn't return home, she will forever hold a grudge against them. However, since she understands why they did what they did, she will not hate them. Just then, Hermes and Asphi walk in too, and the clown claims that he is here to help his bestie Hestia, making Hephaestus question when was the last time he met her. He shrugs her off and says that his best familiar, Asphi, will look for Bell too. Later, he reveals to Asphi that he plans to tag along with her, despite gods not being allowed into the dungeons, but she totally disapproves of it. This is overheard by Hestia, who jumps on the bandwagon too, and finally, a search team comprising these 3, Akka and Yamato, forms. Back in the dungeon, it turns out that Bell and his team survived the fire thanks to their leather cloaks, but they ended up falling to the 11th floor after the ceiling collapsed. As Bell helps the other 2 walk, they reach another corner with no exit and realize that they have been trapped on this floor. Welf sighs and asks Bell to leave him behind if someone attacks them again, because with his broken leg, he is nothing but a burden on them. That's when Lily steps in and finally puts her criminal brain to good use by suggesting that instead of trying to look for an exit, they should head to the 18th floor. Just when the other 2 wonder if she damaged her brain cells during their fall, she explains that the 18th floor is a resting area where no monsters spawn, and suggests that they use the rifts to go deeper. Welf wonders what they will do about the big boss on the 17th floor, but Lily deduces that it must have been defeated by the Loki family on their ongoing expedition, and it will take a while before it respawns. Hearing all this, Bell decides that they should follow Lily's advice, and they later use Welf's sword and ropes to go deeper into the dungeon, until they reach the 17th floor. Once there, Lily uses a stench bag from her extensive collection of stolen goods to keep the monsters away. While the boys whine about how this smell will send them to heaven before the hellhounds do, a monster suddenly appears before them. Welf quickly kneels and uses his magic spell to reverse the beast's attack on itself, making the other glaze him to no end. Just then, they overhear a minotaur howling close by, and Lily dreadfully turns to Belle, revealing that their stench bag has run its course. As an angry minotaur finally makes its appearance, Belle turns into a fidget spinner and uses his twin blades to slash through its skin until it turns into smoke. He then picks up its weapon and amps it up with his Argonaut skill, before slashing it at the other minotaurs and annihilating them in one swift move, along with the architecture. At the same time, Hermes tries to recruit Ryu into their search team too, which makes Freya question what in the world he is doing. Meanwhile, Ryu and Asfi take down the rabbit monsters and hellhounds on their way to the 13th floor, while Taka's family glazes them for having rare skills and being so cool. They later lead the search team to the place where the cave collapsed on Belle and Co., and Hestia almost has a mental breakdown when she finds his sword within the rubble. However, Ryu climbs on top of it and finds gemstones on the other side, through which she deduces that they fought monsters after escaping this place. That's when Asfi uses 100% of her brain and calculates that if the rubble sealed their only exit from the 13th floor, their only option would have been to head to the 18th floor and regroup with the Loki family, which must be returning from their expedition. On the other hand, after Welf and Lily deal with the last of the small monsters, they both collapse from using too much magic. With no other option left, Belle discards Lily's bag and carries them both through the entire 17th floor, until he finds the opening leading to the final boss chamber. Meanwhile, Hestia finally tells Hermes to cut to the chase and explain why he is trying to help Belle. He initially dodges her question but eventually reveals that it's because he is interested in finding out whether Belle can shoulder the burden of this generation. At the same time, Belle enters the final battleground and is relieved to find it empty, thanks to the Loki family that defeated the final boss, the Goliath. He takes a good look at the corridor leading to the 18th floor right in front of him, and mentally affirms that he just needs to pass through this room. However, as soon as he begins running, the wall sealing the Goliath starts to crack, and the final boss starts to spawn once more. Belle barely dodges the rubble from the broken wall when the Titangent-like boss appears right behind him. He uses his final muscle cell to outrun it when the boss tries to swat him away, and thanks to plot armor, he narrowly manages to get to the other side. As the monster punches the corridor behind him, Belle falls into a pit with Lily and Welf, and ends up falling onto a field of flowers before passing out. He later wakes up from a nightmare, only to find Eyes sitting right next to him. He asks why she is here, so she explains that her family is staying here on their way back from the expedition. That's when Belle is reminded of his own comrades and asks where they are. However, he trips and falls onto Eyes' melons instead. This turns him deep red, so he instantly pulls back. However, Eyes doesn't seem to mind it at all. She then reveals that Lily and Welf are completely okay too, since Reveria healed their injuries, and asks him to follow her to meet their boss. Belle immediately enters beggar mode and thanks the boss for helping him and his friends. However, the other guy is only amused at how Belle made it all the way to the 18th floor on his first day as a middle floor adventurer. He says that they are welcome as their guests in the Loki family, because he wants to have a good relationship with Eyes' future husband. As Belle leaves their leader's tent with Eyes, he comes across two Jarab baddies who immediately start simping for him, revealing that they saw his match against the Minotaur and fell in love at first sight. The younger one grabs Belle's arm, but he doesn't feel much because she is flat as a board. The other one notices and flashes her heavy set of plot cannons at him, which makes the virgin boy blush like crazy. Afterwards, Eyes takes him on a tour of the floor, and Belle can't help but feel fascinated upon seeing forests and light inside the dungeon. Eyes shows him what's known as the Paradise Resort, and reveals that this roof of magic crystals is what's responsible for bringing day and night within this floor of the dungeon. That night, Welf and Lily finally wake up and are shocked to find that they didn't turn into minced meat on their way here. However, they are even more shocked when they come across Eyes and realize that the Sword Princess herself saved their lives. Later that night, as the group has dinner with the entire Loki family, Eyes shows a weird fruit to Belle and explains that it is grown exclusively on the 18th floor of the dungeon. However, when Belle tastes it, he finds it too sweet for his liking. Just as Lily and Welf start a cat fight over who should taste it next, the Garrus from before flock around Belle again, asking how he leveled up so quickly, only for Eyes to finally feel jealous over this. Right at that moment, Belle overhears Hestia's voice and immediately runs to the entrance of the 18th floor, where the dumb chick stumbles down from Goliath's room. As soon as she sees him, Hestia immediately jumps into his arms and starts crying her heart out, scolding him for almost turning her into a widow. Belle whispers an apology for making her worry, but just then, Lily ruins their sweet reunion by dragging Hestia away. As Belle gets back up, he is stunned to find Ryu among the crowd and finally gets to meet Hermes, who claims that he came to save him out of the goodwill of his heart. Later, as they all return to the camps, Yamato and Aoka apologize for acting like scumbags toward them, but Lily and Welf refuse to accept their apology. They believe that they have too much audacity to show up here after bringing this upon them in the first place, but Aoka states that if he were to go back in time, he would still make the same decision again. Although this pisses off Welf, Belle adds that if either he or Lily were in danger, he might have made the same decision. This calms them both down, so they agree to act civil with each other, but still refuse to accept their apology. Once that's settled, Asphai steps in and explains that since they are still too weak to defeat the Goliath, they will wait for the Loki family to defeat it first, then they will follow them out to the surface. As the meeting gets dismissed and everyone leaves the camp, Hestia stops Welf and hands him a gift that Hephaestus has sent for him, which visibly upsets him. On the other hand, Belle heads back to the crystal ceiling and gets joined by Eyes, who says she is here to make sure Belle is doing okay. As she wonders if she is bothering him, Belle blushes and blurts that he is the happiest man on Earth right now, which makes her smile. She then asks if he would like to visit the human town on this floor with her tomorrow, and Belle instantly says yes, happy that he finally scored a date with her. However, Hestia steps in just then and calls Belle a cheater, before turning to Eyes and warning her against trying to steal him from her. The next morning, as the entire crew goes sightseeing, Belle brings Hestia to the cliffside on his shoulders as well, and they both realize that the world is beautiful after seeing a landscape full of crystals. Later, as they visit the man-made town, Belle comes across the lame adventurers from Sears' restaurant, who try to act all tough with him but lose their aura after seeing Eyes. After they leave, Lily and Welf find that the sellers are exploiting them and charging thousands for something that costs a few bucks. However, this doesn't stop Hestia from acting like the dead-brained idiot that she is, and she ends up buying a perfume, reasoning that she needs to smell nice just in case Belle agrees to sleep with her. Lily calls her a fool for splurging so much on something useless, but Hestia argues that she needs to maximize her appeal when dealing with Belle, as he wouldn't like a girl who stinks of sweat. As this statement makes everyone else self-conscious, including Eyes, one of the Giru's sisters suggests that they take a bath in the nearby river to clean themselves. That's when Hermes grabs Belle and invites him on a super-secret mission. Even though Belle assumes it would involve something like dungeon politics, the cultured guy brings him to the top of a tree and shows him the view of all the girls in the river, without their plot armor. Belle blushes and lectures him on how morally wrong this is, but Hermes says that peeking is the joy of a man's life, which reminds him of what his cultured grandpa used to say. He quickly shrugs it off and tries to drag Hermes back, only to stumble and fall right into the river. The girls quickly spot him, but nobody minds his presence, and Hestia even offers to bathe together with him. Just as Belle blushes at this offer, he hears Eyes' voice and cannot stop himself from turning around, only to find her standing with nothing on. This shoots up his blood pressure, so he quickly flees the scene, only to later find himself lost in the middle of a forest. As he tries to follow the sound of the river to find his way, he comes across Ryu, who is bathing in a secluded part of the river. Just as he thinks today might be his luckiest day, the elf spots him and almost blows his head off, but Belle quickly gets down on his knees and apologizes. Later, when the two wander through the forest, Belle thanks Ryu for coming to find him with the others, but she states that she would have come here in a few days anyway. Just then, she brings him to a grave site embedded with old weapons and a flag, and pays tribute with a bunch of flowers. Belle asks what this place is, only to learn that this is the memorial of Ryu's old teammates, all of whom were unalived by a rival family. As if this wasn't enough of a plot twist, she further reveals that she is on the guild's blacklist because she annihilated all the members of the rival family to avenge her friends, until she had no purpose left in life. That's when Seer found her, and Mamma Mia gave her another reason to continue living. After her sob story is done, she thanks Belle for listening, and tells him not to trust somebody as disgusting as her. However, Belle tells her to stop looking down on herself, which rizzes her up, so she smiles and holds his hand, before reminding him that he is a kind human, worthy of being respected by everyone around him. That night, as the loser adventurer from before named Mord and his buddies talk about how they need to teach Belle a lesson before he becomes too cocky, somebody approaches them with a scheme to take him down. The next morning, Betty is pissed that Belle got to see Eyes' exposed melons before he did, but the Giru sisters drag him away, revealing that Asfi eventually caught Hermes and beat him up. Just then, Eyes walks up to Belle and bids farewell, saying that although her group is leaving first, she is looking forward to meeting him on the surface later. Belle shyly asks her to take care of herself, all while Hestia watches them from afar and wonders why he is such a simp for her. Just then, an invisible guy captures her, and when Belle comes back inside the camp, he finds a letter from the kidnapper beside her perfume. As he desperately runs out to reach the place of their meetup, Akka catches sight of him on his way and wonders what's wrong. Belle eventually comes face to face with Mord, who is as shameless as ever, and challenges him to a one-on-one duel in exchange for Hestia. Belle agrees and quickly pulls out his twin daggers, only for Mord smack a nearby crystal and fill the air with glitter. This blocks Belle's vision long enough for him to disappear again and start punching him until he falls down on his knees. Belle doesn't understand what is happening, but continues to get beaten by an invisible force, all while Hermes watches this scene from afar. It turns out that he is the one who gave Mord a magic item that has allowed him to become invisible, which makes Asfi wonder if he really hates Belle. Hermes argues that it's actually tough love because he wants Belle to get exposed to scumbags like them too, so his rose-colored vision gets a reality check. Just then, Oka's team, along with Welf, arrive at the scene and engage the rest of Mord's lackeys. Meanwhile, Lily finds Hestia tied to a tree in the forest by smelling her awful perfume. Just as she releases her, Welf gets attacked by a macho man on the battlefield and loses his gift from Hephaestus. However, Ryu comes to his rescue before he gets totally cooked and teaches these little boys a lesson. Meanwhile, after Belle gets punched for the last time, he starts sensing Mord's disgusting aura and manages to evade his next few attacks. Even as the loser draws his sword, Belle easily dodges it and eventually kicks him in his empty skull, which finally breaks his invisibility spell. Just as Mord gets back up and attacks Belle with his broken sword, Hestia arrives at the scene and unleashes her godly aura, telling everyone that the party is over. As Mord and his buddies quickly flee the scene, she jumps into Belle's arms and suffocates him with her melons. Just when he starts blushing, Hestia gets all teary-eyed and apologizes for putting him through this, only for Belle to hug her back and say that he is all right. However, their happiness is short-lived, as the sky turns gray all of a sudden, and the Goliath from the 17th floor bursts through the roof and ends up in the forest. Hermes assumes it's because they have angered the dungeon for some reason, while Belle rushes in to save the others, only to be stopped by Ryu. She questions if he is really serious about risking his friends to save the others, but when Lily and Welf nod their heads, he answers that he is. The elf girl smiles and wishes him luck before taking off into the battlefield. Before Belle charges in with his buddies as well, he leaves Hestia in the care of the supporter from the Take family, while the goddess prays for his safe return. Meanwhile, Mord gets surrounded by the mid-tier monsters in the forest and starts saying his final prayers until Belle saves him from a minotaur and Lily drags him to safety. On the other hand, as the Titan wannabe screams like a crackhead, Asfi runs up to the merchants of the town and asks them to lend them whatever weapons they have. As they all get ready to join the battle, Ryu manages to subdue the monster and creates an opening for Yamato to attack. However, when she discovers that her blade does not affect its thick skin, they all try to pull back. The monster doesn't like it, so he tries to take them out with his fire breath, but Welf uses his reversal magic to beat him to it, only to quickly realize that it didn't work. Ryu saves his weak existence once again and teams up with Asfi to distract the Goliath long enough to allow the mages to prepare their magic spell. Every other background character works with them too, however, no one manages to immobilize the monster until Belle steps in. He uses his magic blade to slice through the monster's legs, which manages to subdue it. Just then, the mages unleash a mixture of fire, ice, and lightning magic on the Goliath, which severely burns it and even breaks its jaw. But just when they start celebrating their victory, the monster stands back up and instantly heals all of his wounds. With his new and improved jaw, he screams even louder and pounds the ground to shatter it, which immobilizes most of the adventurers. Belle quickly joins forces with the two baddies in charge, and Ryu asks him to keep all the smaller monsters at bay while they are trying to subdue the Goliath again. He tries to argue that her scheme is totally crappy, but Ryu explains that they alone cannot prepare an attack as powerful as the other mages. However, when Belle suddenly activates his Argonaut spell again, the elf tells him to take the final shot at the monster's core. With this, she shifts her focus back to the Goliath and turns into Captain Levi, while Belle slowly prepares an extremely powerful form of the firebolt. As he finally unleashes it on the monster, it struggles to fend against it, and its head gets blown away. However, it regenerates within seconds and answers Belle with a near-fatal strike. Just then, Akka shields Belle with his plot armor, but the attack is so powerful that they both get smacked onto the ground. As Team Take tries to revive Oka with their tears, Hestia shows up and tells Ryu to return to the battlefield. When she hesitates, Hestia reassures her that Belle will return from the dead because only he has the power to defeat the Goliath, which helps her leave. Just then, Hestia shifts her attention back to Belle and tries to revive him with an emotional speech about the power of friendship. However, when this fails to work, Hermes steps in. He recites the words of his grandfather to him, about how a hero isn't the one who heals or comes out victorious, but the one who saves all the girls and appears the coolest. As this spell finally brings Belle back to life, Lily hands him a powerful weapon from Hephaestus, and he aura farms his way to the Goliath once again. This time, as Belle imbues his weapon with the Argonaut spell instead, Asphai uses her magic wings to burn the Goliath's eyes, while Ryu injures it with her wind magic. Yamato hops on the bandwagon too and captures the beast within her gravity spell. However, she is unable to hold it for too long, and the Goliath escapes. Just then, Welf barges in as their knight in shining armor, with a magic sword that he created, and burns the beast to the ground until his sword can't sustain it anymore. By then, Belle has concentrated enough magic in his sword, so he charges at the enemy and wipes out more than half of it with a single strike, only to notice it regenerating from its core again. Despite this, he refuses to give up and jumps at the monster with his magic sword, stabbing its crystal core and shattering it into pieces, which finally puts an end to this battle. As everyone else cheers on Belle, Akka returns to life, and Hermes loses his final brain cell. He screams at Belle's grandfather, who is revealed to be Zeus, and tells him that his grandson is the real deal, the savior who will become their strongest in this generation. Should Belle choose Eyes or Hestia? Let us know in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for more awesome recaps.